inept. I lead a competitive team called the Omniscient that has competed and won in a variety of games. We generally prefer faster-paced, mechanically intensive games, but at the moment we're stuck playing Battlefield. Most recently, we won ESB's 4v4 Squad Rush Echo Tournament. BFNations has asked whether I'd make a video addressing some topics I covered on stream, so here we are, talking about mice, mouse pads, and sensitivity settings. A quick disclaimer, generally speaking, people place too much emphasis on equipment. I could have run that opening sequence with any of the mice or pads that I have on hand, and with a range of sensitivities. Focus on developing your mechanical skills. Anyway, onto the equipment specifics. The mouse. 3 things to note. Ensure you have a quality sensor. It's not usually an issue with major manufacturers. 2. Shape can be important depending on your grip. If you're using a fingertip grip, for example, a short mouse will allow you to snap downwards without smashing the mouse back end into your palm. Otherwise, just go with what feels comfortable. And 3. Lower weight mice are nice, but don't break the bank trying to find the lightest mouse possible. Lift some weights. Honestly, that's probably the best advice I can provide for long-term gaming and overall health. The mouse pad. There's really just one thing to note. Ensure the mouse accurately tracks on your pad. Everything else is personal preference. Hard pads are easier to clean, but generally require more control with higher sensitivities. And that's really it. I game with a Logitech G305 and a Corsair mousepad. I don't know that it has a name. They were like $50 and $15 respectively. I'm currently running a relatively pricey keyboard in the Logitech G815, but previously I used a cheap membrane keyboard for years. It was fine. There, I just saved you hundreds of dollars. Now onto sensitivity. Broadly speaking, you're using 2 actuators for mouse movement. A major actuator for large movements, which you can see here, right? Snapping across. And a minor actuator for small movements. And that might be something like recoil control, right? You're pulling down or you're moving it around the opponent's head. Now, obviously, a given movement will utilize a mix of these actuators. If you're using a higher sensitivity, say between 6 to 12 inches per 360, your main actuator will be your wrist, and your minor actuator will be your fingertips. If you're using a lower sensitivity, your main actuator will be your elbow, or your shoulder if it's really low, and your minor actuator will be your wrist. The notion that you can't be accurate or consistent with a higher sensitivity is incorrect. If you need proof, I have a rambling 15-minute demonstration and talk about these topics on my Twitch highlights. I like to remind people that they typically perform precise, dexterous movements with their fingertips, signing their name, for example. And last I checked, neurosurgeons don't perform surgeries predominantly with elbow and shoulder movements. That being said, running particularly high sensitivities removes an actuator, your wrist, from the equation, which isn't ideal. Meanwhile, running particularly low sensitivities hampers fast reticle movement and can harm performance in faster-paced games where you're not looking down a single corridor the entire time. It's also just more cumbersome, right? If you're playing Battlefield and you're having to snap between multiple opponents or spin around pretty frequently, which you often do, it feels awful. To me, anyway, playing with low sensitivity. It just feels like you're stuck in mud. Now, I generally recommend between the 6 to 15 inch per 360 range, provided you've the dexterity. If you're unfamiliar with inches per 360, it's a means to accurately convey sensitivity. Your actual sensitivity is a product of your Windows sensitivity settings, your in-game sensitivity settings, and your mouse's DPI. Providing only 1 or 2 of these numbers is insufficient, and providing all 3 means nothing without actual calculations or mousesensitivity.com. And to measure your inches per 360, simply find a recognizable point on the map, spin 360 degrees, and measure the mouse's lateral displacement. So you would just find, for example, right here, this hard line, and you just spin 360 degrees, and then you take out a ruler or a tape measure, and you just measure that distance. There you go, inches per 360. And one quick Battlefield tip before I go that a surprising number of people don't do. If you're trying to get used to a particular gun, take it into a test range like this. You can see in the upper right Mr. No Name here, or Mrs., I don't know, or Miss, made this aim trainer. You can enter it by hosting the code there, AANJ7Z. Just hop in here, really anywhere. Aim at something, take the mouse off the pad, just fire away. And there is your recoil pattern. Do it again, just make sure, right? And all you're doing to control that is you're pulling down on this one and to the left. You're just moving it in the opposite direction. All right. Have a wonderful day.